and I enforced that rule rigidly during the 5 years that I was chairman. Much of this is up to the committee chairman and the ranking members themselves. And if every committee chairman or ranking member started out with the mindset that their committee's bill could be the one that actually comes to the floor, I think better legislation would result. A chairman shouldn't be content to churn out flawed bills and then rely on the leadership to bail them out. A chairman should operate with the assumption that the bills they're producing are going to go to the floor, and assume once the bills are on the floor, they should assume that they're going to be considered under an open and fair process. And if all committee chairmen and ranking members had this mentality, the result would be better legislation and better legislators. At the Education and Workforce Committee, we operated with a set of transparency rules that encouraged deliberations and limited the number of problems that we had. First, we gave at least 3 days' notice to the minority that we were going to move a bill. Actually, it was usually well beyond that, at least a week's worth of notice. But 3 days was the minimum. That gave members plenty of time to gain the appropriate depth of knowledge and scrub each bill for potential landmines. We also required that all votes be posted online within 48 hours of being cast. And believe it or not, there are committees they're not currently required to post these records at all, lest they be posted in any certain minimum amount of time. And if we posted these records online, more members would be inclined to do their jobs, attend committee proceedings, and weigh in on a bill before it gets to the floor. And third, any amendments had to be posted online within 24 hours after being adopted. Now, we've seen in past instances this issue of phantom amendments that get added to bills after the committee process and before it gets to the Rules Committee. I just don't think that's acceptable. We should require that all committees meet these standards. And we should require that all committees, especially the Rules Committee, webcast their proceedings and post complete transcripts online, with obvious exceptions for those panels dealing with state secrets and classified information. To ensure that there's proper oversight, Congress should also review its internal committee structure and eliminate duplicative programs and jurisdictions. This hasn't been done in 15 years. And just think about that. We can't ask our members to be more engaged if they sit on 3 different committees and a handful of subcommittees. And we currently have rules regarding member limitations, but of course they're always waived, so that we've got enough warm bodies to put in all the slots. And I think we need to rethink this. You know, I know I've covered a lot of ground here and thrown out a lot of ideas. Some of them may get off the ground in the next Congress, some may not. But I do believe that it's important that we have a discussion, and equally vital that that discussion starts right now. Reform should always be an ongoing and inclusive effort. I don't have all the answers, and I wouldn't pretend that I had all the answers. And so I welcome ideas and helping hands from any lawmaker or any citizens about how to make this institution function again. Americans who long for a better government must continue to speak out. And then when they do, I believe it's our responsibility to listen to them. And don't confuse my enthusiasm for any illusion about how well much of this is going to be received by my colleagues. I was doing an interview earlier today, and the reporter said that they had spoken to one of the people outside the door, one of the doormen around the House, and asked, "What do you think it would be like if Boehner became the Speaker?" And the doorman said to this reporter, "Well, we'll be working longer hours." And the reporter said, "Well, why is that?" "Well, because there are going to be more amendments." I said, I can remember early on in my career as a member of the Gang of Seven. And when I got long stares from the members, many of them in my own party, some would just walk the other way, others would be right smack in my face. And I still think I have a permanent bruise at the top of my chest from members giving me this. And that's probably the reaction I'll get to some of the things that I've talked about here today. But some changes have to be made. We can't just keep kicking the can down the road. We're running out of road. And it's time to do what we say we're going to do. From our constituents, our government, and the People's House, settling for the next best thing is no longer good enough. Exactly 100 years ago, Uncle Joe Cannon, who ruled the House with an iron fist, faced an insurgent revolt by both Democrats and Republicans. And even though his fall from power was imminent, Speaker Cannon refused to resign, calling it a confession or a weakness or a mistake or an apology. Well, that right there was Cannon's mistake. That gavel, those powers, they weren't his to use as a personal guard or a shield. They were given to him to guard and shield the interest of the American people. So the speakership foundered over the next decade until 1925, when Nick Longworth told the House on the day that he was sworn in, and I'll quote, "I want to effectively assist you in bringing about the universal recognition of the fact that this House, closer as it is to the people than any other similar body, and more directly responsive to their will, is in very truth, as it ought to be, the most dominant legislative assembly in the world." Let that be our goal. A people's house that is quiet in its effectiveness, but unmistakable in its pride and purpose. We should pursue this work as if the future of the institution depends on it, because it does. Let me thank all of you for being here today, and I'll look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Leader Boehner, for a splendid talk. The leader has time for several questions and comments. I will call on people. If you could please introduce yourself, give an affiliation before asking your question. And I'll identify our first questioner right up front, my colleague Norm Ornstein. Norm?
What a surprise. You got an inside track, Norm.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Leader Boehner, for a very thoughtful and constructive talk and a call to return to the regular order, which we could certainly use. I wanted to ask you a two-part related question. The first is, you called for what would be a much larger number of appropriations bills by breaking up the dozen now into a whole lot more. And you've also appropriately called for more open rules. If you put the two of those things together, it's going to take a lot of time, and I'd like you to just discuss how you make that balance. And then I'd like you to discuss something a little bit further. I believe it would be much, much better if the House moved to a regular schedule, which would be 3 weeks in Washington, 1 week off, 5 days a week from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. A regularity that would give time for debate and also bring members together more so that you could have more interaction and collegiality. Would you be willing to think about or endorse something like that?
Well, the issue of scheduling the House is one that obviously affects every single member, and trust me, every single member will weigh in. I've been in the midst of these discussions before. We have to understand that part of our job is here, representing our constituents. Part of our job is to be in our own districts, listening to our constituents. And trying to find that right balance is a subject of debate and discussion all of the time. I do think that one of the most important things that we did in 1995 was actually publish a schedule and then about 99% of the time stick to the schedule that was published. That, I think, gives members more certainty about when they're required to be in Washington. They can schedule their time at home more effectively. It really was one of the biggest changes that happened in 1995 in terms of affecting members, because we never knew when the next week was going to start until the Thursday before, or maybe even Friday, and we never knew when the week was going to end. And so you couldn't plan your life, couldn't plan time to see your constituents. Having said that, this idea of 3 weeks on and 1 week off would really bring dramatic change in terms of members and their lifestyle, and the fact that most of my colleagues have families and they want to see their families. But I do believe that things like this require a real conversation between the two leaderships that really happens so rarely. The other issue you brought up was the issue of the time spent doing appropriation bills. I understand it would take more time to break up some of these bills, or you could bring a bill, an appropriations bill to the floor, and you could just consider certain sections separately from the other. And yes, it may take more time. Frankly, open rules take more time. But if we're not sitting around naming post offices and congratulating someone who died 100 years ago, we might actually have time to provide the kind of scrutiny that the American people expect when we're spending their money.
Back here, and then this gentleman, and then I'll move to this side.
Hi, my name is Dinah Furch-Scott-Ruth. I'm with the Hudson Institute. Thanks very much for your remarks. Today it was announced in the news reports that McDonald's might be dropping its health insurance coverage for thousands of workers due to the provisions of Obamacare. If you get into the majority next session, how will you manage to stall this, given that President Obama is president for the next 2 years and will undoubtedly veto any attempt at repeal? Meanwhile, thousands more workers might be losing their health insurance coverage.
Well, if you believe, as I do, that Obamacare will ruin the best health care delivery system in the world, and believe, as I do, that it will bankrupt our country, we've made it clear that we want to repeal Obamacare and replace it with common sense reforms that will bring down the cost of health insurance. Having said that, if we're in the majority, there will be a bill to repeal